Justice. Tackling topics like constitutional rights and reform, domestic violence, and rights issues that affect you. Let's Talk Justice every Monday starting June 24 from 1 to 2 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM. Call in, share your thoughts, be empowered, know your rights, and let's talk justice, ensuring access to justice for all, courtesy of Jamaicans for Justice.
The people's champion. Our mission is love. Our vision is love. Jamaicans for justice. The people's champion. Justice, justice for all. Justice under the law. Justice, Jamaica demand. Right to life, right to liberty.
Welcome to Let's Talk Justice. It's certainly a good Monday as we join the nationwide family. Jamaicans for Justice, we're here and we will be with you every Monday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. My name is Michael Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
And I'm Jade Williams, Policy and Advocacy Specialist at JFJ.
Alrighty, so as we kick off with the topic of discussion, we're going to be focusing on the matter of redefining rape and ensuring that we offer greater protection for vulnerable people. But before we get into the substantive topic, what exactly is the public expecting from us as we join the nationwide family? Just by way of a little bit of introduction, we have been doing this radio program for years now. We were called Community Lawyer before. Several years ago, I think over a decade, we were on another radio program. We rebranded to Let's Start Justice, and we have now found a new home with Nationwide. And what you can expect each week, Jade, excitement?
Well, certainly information. I don't know about the excitement, but certainly information for sure.
No, but we can't look upon justice and human rights as some boring thing. I want the public to understand that as you're tuning to the program, it's going to be information-based, certainly, but it's going to be important that we have a new approach when we talk about human rights. Again, it's not an abstract thing. It is something that we all should have a vested interest in. We all should know what our rights are, and we will do our best to ensure that, again, information-based, but certainly bring some energy to the discussions when we're having them, yes?
Yes.
And then each week, what you can expect, what we will do, we have lots of prizes and giveaways. Today is just a phone credit when you answer a trivia question.
Yes.
Then we will just do a little bit of a recap of what the human rights issues were the week that was. Then we will go in our interview. And for the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will just be having a discussion, Jade and I, on some issues we're going to be honing in, zoning in a little bit more on. But once we pass that 3-week mark, we're going to be opening up the studio lines where you can call in at about 1:40. Let us know the things that are on your mind for the week, the things that you would want us to probe a little bit more, information that you're seeking. Am I missing out anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so the week that was, I think we may just push that towards the second half of the program, just to ensure that we can discuss a little bit more, because there are some things that I want us to follow up on. For example, the matter of the Court of Appeal, that the hearing was made this morning regarding the Director of Public Prosecution.
Yes.
I think we may touch briefly on the matter around the mustard seed. But importantly so, an area that I want us to focus on a little bit more is the issue of that video that circulated recently regarding the police coming in some tussle with a civilian. And I think, well, people have been calling the office and sending emails. What are my rights? What exactly can I expect from law enforcement? And I will see how best we can condense that a little bit in 10 minutes and have that discourse.
All right.
All right. But
Yes.
before we go into the program, Jay, just 2 minutes. Who is JFJ and what is our work? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, well, we are a non-governmental human rights organization, and we have been in this business for 25 years, doing our best, doing our part to help to uphold, respect, and protect the rights of Jamaicans. And so we work in our little thematic areas. We focus on broad human rights, of course. We focus on state accountability and state abuse. We also focus extensively on child rights and gender-based violence and the issues affecting vulnerable groups, some of which we're going to be discussing today. So that's JFJ,
Yes.
regardless of what you may have heard. that is what we actually do. As we continue over the program, I'm sure people get to know us a bit better.
So if your rights are violated by the state in any area,
That's our
then
business.
JFJ touches on it.
Absolutely.
Primarily so with law enforcement, but we also touch on good governance matters and accountability. So sometimes I hear and see some of the comments in the YouTube chat here, why is JFJ talking on this? Because we do touch on good governance, and we're going to be explaining to you the areas that we have touched on in the past, like the Access to Information Act that we lent our support to. Yeah?
Certainly.
All right, so let's get into it. Over to
Sure.
you.
Yes, so I'm going to give us a little bit of information right now. We're going to do our little Did You Know segment. And this will happen each week where we just give you a fact. Sometimes it's related to the topic, sometimes not necessarily so. But this week it is related. It is on section 1312 of the Constitution, which speaks to our savings law clause. And essentially what this section of the Constitution does is protects certain pieces of legislation. So it says that where you want to challenge, for example, a section on buggery or a section on abortion or a section on obscene publications, you would not be able to do so on the basis of unconstitutionality, which is what people usually use to challenge issues of the Constitution. So that section prevents the citizen from doing that, and it also makes it a little more difficult for legislators to change those sections, some of which we're going to be discussing today. Now, we also have a trivia question. I just want to quickly get that out there. You can participate in the trivia on our social media Instagram, which is JA4Justice. And our trivia question is, what section of the Offences Against the Person Act do we have the offence of buggery? So what section in the legislation outlines that offence? And you can respond via DM in our social media.
And I will keep my mouth shut because I have a tendency of giving away the trivia.
Well, it certainly
an
shows
overview.
it shows that people are listening if they got it from your overview. So that's fine with me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, and by the way, those on YouTube, we're listening. Well, I'm watching and reading some of the comments. So just ensure that you can also participate. You would have seen the trivia question. You can win, I think, $1,000 credit, depending on your provider.
Yes.
Yes. So it's the JFJ's Instagram, but also our kind listeners on the nationwide YouTube platform.
Your producer says
as
it's
well.
$500.
It's 500.
Yes.
How can I look a bit of money that? All right, let's get into the matter for this week. Now, for those who have been paying attention to the news cycle, you would have heard where Member of Parliament Lisa Hanna tabled a private member's motion in the House to redefine rape in law. And following that, she has made some other public comments to ask for the Buggery law to be repealed. And we take a clip from MP Hanna.
Intercourse with a woman without her consent or knowing that she does not consent or reckless disregard for her consenting. And whereas in our Sexual Offences Act, sexual intercourse is defined as the entrance of the penis to the vagina only. And whereas if the same man uses an implement or any other body part to penetrate her vagina, mouth, or anus, it is considered grievous sexual assault. Or if he uses his penis to penetrate anywhere else on her other than her vagina, he may not be technically charged for rape in Jamaica, but rather grievous sexual assault. And whereas in our law, it is only a man that can rape a woman, and a man cannot experience rape in Jamaica, whether by a man or by a woman, which is presenting a legislative dilemma, creating inequitable legal consequences surrounding how we treat rape in Jamaica. And whereas, because our legal definitions have been unchanged for centuries, many boys and men who have been or are being raped and sexually abused by men and women, or men, continue to suffer in silence and don't come forward out of fear of being stigmatized or thrown in jail, even though they are the victims. Be it resolved that we acknowledge and confront the fact that many of our boys and men are raped and continue to be raped, and change the law to give them redress and equality in our treatment of men and women in Jamaica. And be it resolved that we modify our legal definition of sexual intercourse to make the act of rape in Jamaica gender neutral. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
MP Hannah speaking in Parliament.
No, this is not a new area of advocacy for organizations like ours, Jamaicans for Justice, but also for Jamaica Aid Support for Life and several other NGOs who have been vocal on this recommendation since as early as 2014, when the Joint Select Committee at that time would have reviewed the legislation. Now, at that time, it was settled by the committee that they would have brought the issue to a referendum, which is an issue that which is a decision that JFJ has not agreed with, and we see it as a signaling of legislative cowardice.
No, since MP Hannah's motion, several civil society groups and individuals have come out in support of same. We've had some who do not support, yes. And we have urged their members of Parliament to also lend their support. However, the criticisms, as you can imagine, persist from religious actors. And what we're going to be doing for today is to challenge some of those views that have put forward, and we're going to be seeking clarity in some of the legislative dilemmas that you hear. And I'm going to be explaining, Jade and I, and also with the assistance of our guest, when you hear the matter of grievous sexual assault, what exactly does that mean? What exactly is the gap in law when it comes to rape? What exactly are we trying to fix? But before we get to our guest, there is just a little bit of a data I would like to share. Now, last year, JFJ did a survey, a public opinion survey in the communities, and we interviewed or surveyed over 1,000 people. And I want you to look at some of the statistics or just listen keenly. We had at least 81% of Jamaicans that we surveyed saying we believe that rape is prevalent in society. We also had, based on our survey, 1 in 5 women said that they were raped. 1 in 5 women, right? That's a little bit over 16% of the women that we had surveyed. I want you to put that in context, that when we had designed this survey tool, we ensured that we said to the persons who were answering that rape is currently defined as penile vaginal penetration. However, for the purposes of the tool, we're going to be expanding it to penetration forcibly of the anus and the mouth. And 16% of women said that they were raped. And I want you to think on it. Had we broadened it to really be focusing on sexual assault, what would that number be? And we're going to be joined by Mr. Patrick Layla. He's the Policy and Advocacy Officer of Jamaica Aid Support for Life, and Reverend Bertram Gale. He's an Anglican priest. But let's take the break, Jade, yes. And then we just pick up with the interview.
Who shops at Creative Building Finishes? You, the homeowner who creates luxurious spaces with our floor and wall tiles. The contractor and builder who are convinced that our ceramic tiles are right for the job. The architect and designer who make dreams come true with our wood look and porcelain tiles. Superior customer service, knowledgeable staff, inviting showroom, and you get where this is going, right? Shop 5 Red Hills Road or call 876-929-5553. Get tiles, get Creative Building Finishes.
Oh, every time I pay the rent, it feel like the money could have been better spent. I want something for my own. I want to turn the key in my own home. They make it so convenient when you contact the NHD. No matter your home ownership, you can get a loan easily. If owning a home is what you want to do, NHD is here for delivering more. Delivering more.
Presenting another finalist in the 2024 Jamaica Festival Song Competition.
Hey Jamaica,
This is Sister Novelet. My song is Fimi Island Home. It's all about Jamaica, Fimi Island Home. No matter where I go, back to my land I come. It's all about Jamaica, Fimi Island
Jamaica
Home.
Festival 2024.
Jamaica, Jamaica, I see what I want at Fosrich Super Sale, June 17 to 28. Call us at 876-937-5099 or visit us in Kingston, Mandeville, Draxall, and Montego Bay. Come get your wires, breakers, chandeliers, flood lamps, LED bulbs, solar panels, and so much more. Come shop, come save at Fosrich Super Sale, June 17 to 28. See you there at Fosrich, open Sundays.
Welcome back to Let's Start Justice. This is a new program that is hosted by Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ. So you will be seeing us on your screen and hearing us on your radio every Monday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. We're discussing the matter of redefining rape in law. And we just want to ensure that as best as possible, we give you the information so that you can be equipped and demand more from our parliamentarians and ensure that we protect our most vulnerable. We are joined by Mr. Patrick Lalo, the Policy and Advocacy Officer of Jamaica Aid Support for Life, and also Reverend Bertram Gale. He's an Anglican priest with the St. Andrew Parish Church. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you to our first episode here on Nationwide. So, what do you call this now? When you say you're the first, what's the word?
Inaugural.
Dear God. You see these educated people. All right. But thank you so much, Rev and Patrick. It's a pleasure to have you both with us. Jay, do you want to start out?
Yes. And I think we should start with some clarity, as Mikkel had mentioned before. And I'll start with you, Mr. Lalo. We have been talking a lot about changing the provisions. So what are the provisions? What is it that we're thinking about changing, and what is the effect that it is currently having?
Okay, well, let us start with the definition of sexual intercourse. The Sexual Offences Act in Section 2 defines sexual intercourse as the insertion of the penis of one person into the vagina of another. Okay. Why this definition is critical, because then the legislation moves on into Section 3 to define rape as the said sexual intercourse that we just defined with the absence of consent. So in other words, penis into vagina with no consent, then you get rape. Mm-hmm. So sexual intercourse, as defined, is very critical into defining what rape is. So the issue here now is that anything else happens, penis going anywhere else, or anything going anywhere else is not considered rape in law. So the effect of this is that what it means is that, one, only a man can commit the offense of rape. Two, only if a woman is penetrated in her vagina, she's raped. Without consent, of course, she's raped. So if she's penetrated anally in her mouth or otherwise, the law says she's not raped. It says it's something else, which we will eventually get to. And then the definition as it stands totally takes out of the picture the possibility of any male person being raped at all. So what is being asked for now is for the law to revise that definition, or parliamentarians to look at revising that definition of sexual intercourse to cover not just vaginal, but anal and oral penetration. At Jamaica Aid Support for Life, we have some people asking for vaginal and anal. Some people have gone as far as to oral. And some people have even gone as far as to ask that it includes even the use of objects that are used to penetrate the other person. So the request is for that definition to change to say, listen, if you put your penis in someone's anus or mouth without their consent, you have raped them. Some persons are saying if you even use an object, you have done the same.
So just for the clarity, Patrick, because I want us to break a little because we're going to ask some follow-up questions. For the listeners, for absolute clarity, the law as it is currently defined is saying that our men and boys cannot be raped in law. We
That
have
is
to
very
utilize
clear.
the provision of Buggery.
Right. That is very clear, and that is not an issue at all. The men are not on the table at all. So presently it is saying just a woman can be raped, and
A man is always the perpetrator.
a man is always the perpetrator, and two, she can only be raped if it's her vagina. We don't want to miss that point. Woman that the law says can be raped. If the rapist chooses to penetrate her anus or her mouth, the law says she is not raped.
Yes.
So there's only a man can commit the offense, only a woman it can happen to, and only in the event that her vagina is penetrated.
All right. We're going to be touching on the matter of why Buggery is not a sufficient legislative avenue, so to speak. But let us bring in Reverend Gail. We've been hearing from the church, Rev, and, Patrick and I were 2 of 4 guests recently on a TV program. And some of the arguments or the pushback we've gotten from the church is that, listen, this is going to be, basically causing mayhem when you look at the matter of family values, mayhem in terms of what we understand decent sexual intercourse to be. As someone who is from a religious group, what is your response to comments such as those, and what you would be saying to the listeners at this point?
And Michael, before
Again,
I come in, I want to disagree
thank you
with
for
the
having
church.
me.
I don't agree.
1 second, Patrick. Let us hear
I
from
do not
Rev, and then we bring you back
I
in.
do not agree that there will be any additional mayhem to this situation as it pertains here in Jamaica. One could, I suppose, argue many years ago when it became law that no child would be called a bastard, that you would have had a similar incident taking place where you are encouraging people to have children out of wedlock. I believe that the reality of the situation is that even though Buggery is a criminal offense currently, it is still something that people are participating in. And there are instances where persons are violated and would be charged under Buggery, and their violation is not treated with the respect and with the seriousness that it really is. So I think it's sort of an alarmist approach to dealing with the issue.
All right. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, as we were talking about Buggery and its use, that it is an offense that does not consider consent. And I think that when we talk about rape and sexual assault, I got a firearm here and had it in my hand, I've committed the offense.
So in other words, and I'm going to be using the word rape now, not within the context of the limited legal definition.
Yes.
And I'll ask Patrick to pick up on this point. So, Jade, in other words, someone who was violated, raped in his anus, can also be charged with Buggery.
If the law is applied as it should be, yes, certainly.
Patrick?
Yes, I think the point I was saying, Michael, maybe being a little cheeky, but I don't know if I agree that the persons we were on a particular program with were the church. There were 2 individuals who claimed to be representatives of the church. I don't know about that. I've seen a more forward-thinking view from churches on this subject matter, because it is simply a matter of common sense. If we are serious about the law is supposed to protect the society, protect everyone in the society. And when we look at what is being asked for based on this proposal from MP Hannah, And this same position that many organizations have held in the past, it is simply asking for the playing field to be leveled and for the same protection to be applied to everyone. I don't think it is anything that if the church should be doing anything, I think they should be supporting this call for equality and for the law to be applied fairly to everyone. I think the church has always stood for fairness and justice, and that is all that this change that is being asked for will do.
Yes. And just, I want to repeat for absolute clarity, for avoidance of doubt. Buggery, as it is currently written in a particular section, well, I think we got a winner already, so I can say it, Section 76 of the Offences Against the Persons Act. Buggery, as it is currently written, does not consider consent. Consent is irrelevant. So in other words, as Jade said, but I think it's important that it's worth repeating, a victim of a heinous crime where you're forcibly anally penetrated, you yourself can be charged with the offense of buggery and be subjected to 10 years maximum term of imprisonment. The other thing I want to point out, if a heterosexual man has intercourse, anal intercourse with his wife in the privacy of his home, he can also be charged with buggery. I want the listeners to pay attention with this point, because it's important that when we get the pushback that says, but buggery exists already. No. I want there to be clarity going forward what exactly we mean. And there's another point of clarity before we bring back in Rev. Patrick, I'm not sure if you have the law at your fingertips or if you recall out of the top of your head the gap in grievous sexual assault and why that is also not a legislative avenue that we should ever repeat is there, so that there is some justification not to redefine rape. Patrick?
Of course, when it comes to grievous sexual assault, the gap is this. One, before we even get to penalty, just to ensure that our listeners understand. So the law says if the rapist, for example, puts his penis in the woman's mouth or use some other object to penetrate her vagina, then he has committed the offense of grievous sexual assault. But here what the problem with this offense is. If this accused is convicted of the offense in the parish court, the starting point for the judge is 0. And the end point is 3 years. I'll just be very clear. When I say the starting point is 0, which means there is no guarantee that this person must get a custodial sentence, because the law prescribes a maximum penalty of 3 years if convicted in the parish court, which means all the law says is the judge cannot pass 3 years. So the judge can start from 0 to 3, which means this person can go home on a warning, a probation order, a suspended sentence, whatever. If it goes to the higher court, the Supreme Court, for example, convicted there, where some people put the argument to say, oh yes, they can get up to life imprisonment for grievous sexual assault as well. The starting point at the higher court is still 0 and may go up to life. When these offenses are all captured under rape, the starting point anywhere is 15 years and can go up to life. So there is not that possibility that this person may walk free with a slap on the wrist or get a probationary period. Also, the starting point is so there is. Even though
we're coming up on the break, Patrick, so just finish that thought quickly for me.
Even though you may hear some people argue, oh, they can get up to life imprisonment for grievous sexual assault, it's not that simple. The starting point, once that is the charge, is 0, and left up to the judge to wherever that goes.
All right, we take the break and then we pick up.
At the Jamaica Customs Agency, we care for our employees, customers, stakeholders, citizens, and our country. Customs cares. The temperature by the Jamaica Customs Agency is...
For all your prescriptions, over-the-counter drugs and dermatological preparations, confidential consultations, toys, gifts, stationery and personal care items, visit Adana's Pharmacy. 10% off prescription drugs for seniors. Open Monday to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Located at 111 Constant Spring Road. Contact them at adanasrx@gmail.com or WhatsApp your prescription to 876-883-7415. Adana's Pharmacy, providing quality care to you.
Is there a small business person in your community making a big difference? Do they inspire you and others? How are they helping? Let the Supreme Ventures Foundation know who is your Supreme Community Hero. Nominate yours and we will select 5 community-based businesses to receive a grant to invest in their business and in the community, plus entrepreneurial training. So, who is your Supreme Community Hero? Visit sv-foundation.com to nominate your Supreme Community Hero now. Nominations close July 26.
Live exquisite this year with new arrival black and chrome fixtures for your home at Unique Living. Select from a wide variety of rain shower systems, fabulous faucets, and stylish sinks to suit your kitchen and bathrooms. Get uncompromised quality and style unique to you. Shop everything new at Unique Living, Jamaica's leading shower and faucets provider. Visit shop number 6, 30 Dunrobin Avenue, Kingston 10, or call 876-755-3661 to 2.
Oh, every time I pay the rent, it feel like the money could have been better spent. I want something for my own. I want to turn the key in my own home. They make it so convenient when you contact the NHD. No matter your home ownership goal, you can get a loan easily. If owning a home is what you want to do, NHD is here for you. Delivering more. Delivering more.
At the Jamaica Customs Agency, we care for our employees, customers, stakeholders, citizens, and our country. Customs cares. The temperature by the Jamaica Customs Agency is
28 degrees Celsius in Kingston and 28 degrees Celsius also in the western capital of Jamaica.
Welcome back to Let's Talk Justice. We have been discussing MP Hannah's recent motion and what it means to redefine rape in Jamaica's law. We are joined by Mr. Patrick Layla from Jamaica Aid Support for Life and Reverend Bertram Gale from the St. Andrew Parish Church. Now, Reverend Gale, I heard your perspective earlier, and I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give to your fellow believers as to how to approach this this possible change in our legislation and in our cultural thought?
I don't think, as far as St. Andrew Parish is concerned, and many advocates who have touched this with me, I don't think I need to say it more because they already are in full support of this motion that was raised by MP Hannah. What I would do to speak more about the realities surrounding the legislative framework as it is. And I believe that will empower them to enter into conversations with their peers, with their colleagues, with their families, and to provide them with a clearer understanding of what is the reality. I think many people are just surprised that there is this belief, and the law supports it, that a man, for example, cannot be raped. So it's just the foolishness of the ridiculous nature of the Constitution as it is that people find strange.
Patrick, thank you so much, Rev. From your end, what can be done differently? What else can civil society do to encourage the wider citizenry to understand the issues and to, I see where someone is saying, for example, that we have an agenda. We absolutely have an agenda. We have a human rights agenda. That is without doubt. That's why we're here doing public education. So I want to clarify that. But what else can we do differently, Sir Leela?
All right. So, one of the first things we can do is get those people who think we have an agenda to understand that, yes, we do, and what the agenda really is. Because I think people run away from this thing about an agenda. Yes, we do have an agenda. We are human rights activists. Our job is about ensuring that all human beings are protected by the law. And that is why we, over the years, called for things like removing marital rape from the Sexual Offences Act. That was one of the proposals we made with this one, so that women can exercise their bodily autonomy. So, yes, people need to understand that we do have an agenda to protect everyone. But I think as civil society organizations, we have to do a lot more public education, because what I see when we go around the country and engage people on the ground is that the average Jamaican has buggery in their mind as, oh, this is a homosexual thing, so leave it in the law as is. Because if you change that, what you are doing is legalizing homosexuality. So
and let me put this to you, Patrick, so you can finish out that thought, and then we ask Rev. The same survey that I mentioned that JFJ did last year, and we just put it on our social media platforms, 94% of Jamaicans agreed. Let us redefine rape to ensure that our men and boys can be protected. 94% rather. 94% agreed to redefine rape. But here the dilemma now that we had. 58% said we do not agree that the Buggery law should be repealed. 58% said no. And when we probed why they wanted one and not the other, in their minds, incorrectly so by the way, they believe that all of a sudden gay men would be able to get married in Jamaica. What is your comment to persons such as
absolutely
those?
far from the truth. So I think the first thing is we need to ensure that people understand what buggery is and that it's anal penetration. Anal penetration, whether it happens between heterosexual couples or homosexual couples, if a man and his wife chooses to have anal sex in the privacy of their home, as Jade explained earlier, it's basically a strict liability offense. You can't say, oh, this was my state of mind when I was doing it. The law does not contemplate that. Consent is not an issue. You have committed the offense. So I think, one, people need to understand what buggery really is. And I find that when Jamaicans get the proper understanding, they're like, oh, I thought it was just a man and man thing. And then, two, people need to also understand that this changes nothing in the law as it relates to the fact that constitutionally and according to the Matrimonial Clauses Act, our law currently recognizes marriage between a man and a woman. That in no way will be changed by us making this change to provide greater protection for women and protection for men and boys.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to give Rev the last word. Rev, Jamaica keeps lagging behind Trinidad, for example, Barbados. Interestingly enough, we got this particular piece of provision from the United Kingdom, and they have since made a change. What would be your word to the members of Parliament as this matter? I think MP Hannah indicated that the House Speaker, Juliet Holness, will be putting the matter up for debate. What would be your recommendation, if you will, for the other 82 members of Parliament at both the lower and the upper house? One seat is vacant.
My word would be to follow the tradition of Jamaica. Over the years, Jamaica has been a leader as it relates to human rights. And I find it very unfortunate that we are lagging behind on this. So if it is that we are to continue in the tradition which we began many years ago, we will end up in a situation in which we find equality and justice as it relates to this marketplace here.
All right. Thank you so much to you both. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to be with us. That was Patrick Layla, Policy and Advocacy Officer of Jamaica Aid Support for Life, and Reverend Bertram Gale, Anglican priest with the St. Andrew Parish Church. Thank you so much, gentlemen. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Jade, before we go into some of the other matters we have up for discussion, and Patrick alluded to it, you know, I'm not too sure or certain if we're aware of some of the things that still exist on our books.
Yes.
And the madness, and I can only call it that goes on in Parliament sometimes, which is the reason for civil society organizations, being here. No, I'm not sure if you remember, Jade, but we had the common law provision that we said that a man can rape his wife.
Yes.
That was a common law provision.
Yes.
However, when the Sexual Offences Act was being amended in 2009, our good parliamentarians say a man can rape his wife, save and except for...
Well, actually, a man can't rape his wife, and there is an exception.
Absolutely. Thank you for the clarification.
Yes.
And the conditions to be met include what?
If he has a sexually transmitted disease and he did not inform her before the sexual intercourse, if they are legally separated, or if they are in the process of getting a divorce. In all other circumstances, he would not have raped his wife, only in those circumstances.
So once I get married, automatically consent has been given until I initiate divorce proceedings or I get a separation agreement.
Yes.
Or if this person has an STI.
And did not inform you.
Huh?
And did not inform you. If you have the knowledge, then the offense is not
Can you
made
imagine?
out. Yes.
2009, 15 years ago, if my math is correct, this is what our parliamentarians put on the books.
Yes.
And every year since that Joint Select Committee met, from 2017, the report was published, 2018, signed off in Parliament, 2019. Every year since that, we've gotten announcements. We're going to be repealing. We're going to be pushing forward these amendments. And it's now June 2024?
Yes.
And nothing so far. I want us to think on these things when we push back.
You know, I think I wanted to make one other point, because one of the critiques that we're constantly hearing about this proposal is why not just increase the sentence for buggery? And it is going to be extremely difficult for you to do that, because the way, as we said, the way that the offense is made out, it does not consider consent. It's a strict liability offense. And if we look at our other strict liability offenses, for example, firearm offenses or gang offenses, possession offenses usually, they are trying to police something that is inherently an issue. It's inherently bad. Having an illegal firearm. It's inherently bad having illegal possession of drugs, for example. Whereas this is a situation where you can be engaging in your private consensual home, where nothing is disagreed upon. None of the actions are disagreed upon. And you may still be prosecuted for that. In fact, if you are a heterosexual couple partaking in your anal sex and your neighbor is a bit jealous of your relationship and makes a report to the police that there is suspicion that you are participating in anal sex, that allows the police to come to your home with or without a warrant. They could get a warrant for it, but they could come without one, enter the home and search without the warrant and arrest you and your partner for the offense. Strict liability.
Yeah. So as we approach the break, I just want people to think that this is not a controversial topic. It ought not to be. This is a topic that is ensuring that our men and boys women who are forcibly anally penetrated can get the protection necessary in law. We take the break.
Nationwide 90 FM is at it again. Team Revolution will clear every hurdle and sprint to the finish line as we cover the games of the 33rd Olympiad from Paris, the city of love.
Winning by daylight and setting a world record, 9.68. The wind is okay.
Nationwide's coverage is powered by our diamond sponsor, KFC. It's finger-licking good across all locations island-wide.
Excerpt from Minister Desmond McKenzie's sectoral presentation, brought to you by the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development.
Last year, we provided over $150 million for the trucking of water across the country. This year, we'll be providing an additional $170 million for the trucking of water to various communities.
Excerpt from Minister Desmond McKenzie's sectoral presentation, brought to you by the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development.
Variety is the spice of life. That's not just true for entertainment, it's true for investing too. While stocks, bonds, and cash are effective, there are other credible investment options out there. These are alternative investments, ranging from digital options like cryptocurrencies to old school investments like gold, real estate, and private equity. You can invest on your own or via a fund with a curated portfolio of investment options.
Visit barita.com/opportunities for more growth coach insights.
All right, welcome back to Let's Start Justice. As I indicated at the start of the program, what we're going to be doing in another 3 weeks is to open up the studio line so you can call in and raise whatever questions or queries you may have. And for those who do not know about the organization, and let me speak with clarity, while we will not be putting out any legal advice, what we can do when you call in, and if you have a complaint, we can hear your complaint, hear your concerns, and then we will take your information. So for example, if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic-based violence, JFJ can listen to the concerns that you have. We can take your information and you can get legal support from one of our attorneys. And the same goes for the other areas that the organization lend its voice to and our legal representation to. For example, a child who may experience some violation of his rights while he's in the custody, or she is in the custody of the state. This is something that JFJ can lend some support to. And of course, if any person that you know may have been violated by any person who represents the state, a police officer, a soldier, if you go in the health facility and any of your fundamental human rights have been violated, you can call in and we will hear your concerns. And depending on the matter, we can lend our support in that way. All right, so these are some of the things that JFJ can readily respond to when we start taking in some of the comments. Now, last week, we saw a video that was circulating on social media around a woman, two police officers who apparently went to a school to arrest a civilian. Apparently, it was a woman who was behaving disorderly on a school compound. And one must agree with the Prime Minister and others who indicated that at no point do you want a civilian, a parent, a caregiver, to go on a school compound and behave in a manner that is untoward, that is not putting forward a model that our children can emulate. I think we can all agree with that. That's well thinking, I would say. Now, I want to be very clear, however, as I make this statement, that as we have our police officers who are putting their lives at risk daily, they are to be respected. However, they are also to be respectful towards our citizens. And I'm not speaking specifically to the video now. But to the specific video, there were a few things that came to mind, and we're going to be ensuring that we also touch in about 3 minutes what citizens ought to be aware of. And I don't want to be misquoted. And I want the listeners, and I know not all of you may be fans of JFJ. Trust me, we will change your perspective in a couple of weeks. Don't worry. Right? But I want us to listen keenly. When we look at that video, we are not aware of what may have transpired before. That's the first point I want to make clear. And what that says to us here at JFJ, and the question that we have asked, where are those body-worn cameras? I think we must get to a point where citizens are there recording, or at one point I believe the officer herself was asking the citizens to record. Where are the body-worn cameras? The thousands that we were told were brought in the island. That's the first question I want you to think about. Now, at one point during the video, you heard the civilians saying, "I pointed in your face, officer. That not give you the right to lick me." In the video, we saw the civilian grabbing onto the clothing of the officer and the officer pulling her hair. That ought not to happen on either side. And I think both things can be true and both actions can be condemned. This is not a situation where we're saying that the civilian is correct or vice versa. I think as Jamaican citizens, we should be able to look at things objectively and say something not right in this particular situation here. Because the civilian, we should comply when a lawful arrest is being executed. And I particularly use that word lawful. And I would quickly go through, and Jade, you can help me out as the attorney here, what should happen. Now, the Jamaica Constabulary Force correctly issued a release, or I should say they issued a release with a correct statement in it, that Section 15 of the Constabulary Force Act says that, firstly, if an arrest is to be executed, you must have an arrest warrant. However, for Section 15, if you are in the process of doing something unlawfully, or there is a reasonable suspicion that you are doing something unlawfully, the police can arrest you. But here's the issue. The police must say to you, for this arrest to be lawful, no, you know. And Jade, please interject. My name is policewoman X policeman Y. This is the reason for me taking you into custody. The video would have shown none of that. Right?
Correct. Yes.
And these are the things that we ought to know about. As the civilian know, we have to be careful when we tell people comply and complain. We believe in the principle of it. However, these particulars must be done by the JSAF as well. And as citizens, be aware of your rights. Because I think sometimes when we're not readily aware, we get agitated, we get angry, and then we don't behave in the way that we should, that we ought to. But if you are arrested, you have the right to an attorney. That's what your constitution says.
Yes.
Free lawyer from the state. Yeah?
Yes.
You can call Indicom. You can call iProbe and lodge your complaint. One of the listeners in the YouTube reminding me, and this is something we had said, where are the tools of the JCF officers? Why did this matter go on for so long?
Yes.
At one point in the video, here the officer asking to call for an extra unit, a backup unit for handcuff. Huh? People, please think on these things, because as I've stated, the civilian ought not to be assaulting the police officer, but the police officer ought not to be assaulting a civilian. That is not the way I'm sure JCF trained any officer to execute an arrest.
But as you rightfully said, you train the officer to execute the arrest with the tools that you ought to also provide. So you certainly want to ensure the officers are properly equipped when they go to execute their duty, which we've seen as a challenge.
Your handcuff.
Indeed.
So, there was an article, and I will be very, very quick because we will soon be out of time.
Yes.
It was in the Jamaica Gleaner, written by Tesha Allison. Comply, then complain. And she asked the question, a force for good or a recipe for abuse? And she asked the question in her article. Imagine being told, if we mistreat you, comply now and then complain later. Such words inherently acknowledge potential abuse and expect citizens to accept it without question. With its colonial overtones, this directive tells citizens to brace for mistreatment and deal with it later. How can we expect people to respond positively to such a message? While I may not necessarily agree with the framing, I think the point here that one can take away from it is that the police force has a responsibility to build upon the good work of the Community Safety and Security Branch in ensuring that there is this collaborative approach with citizens. I think I hear DCP Bailey making similar utterances as well. So I think these things are important for us to be aware of. So both parties have a role to play. And certainly here at JFJ, we're going to be ensuring that we explain to citizens your responsibility in being respectful, but also the rights that you have in our Jamaican Constitution. So if you come in contact or conflict with the law, you know how to behave, because the responsibility certainly goes both ways.
Yes.
Yeah?
Certainly.
And you have your trivia winner?
I have two. I have one from the YouTube chat, the Landau experience. So we'll send you a message via YouTube if your messages are open. If not, I hope you are listening and you can send us a message and we'll forward you your credit. And we also have a winner on Instagram, which is Asa Saji, who has followed us over to Nationwide. Welcome.
Oh, Saji is with us.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's one of our long-time listeners, and we welcome you. Thank you for joining us over here on Nationwide, and congratulations on winning the first trivia on this channel.
And the answer, you gave the answer?
Well, you gave the answer, but the answer is section 76. So if you'd like to see what we were talking about today over the show, you can look at section 76, 77, and 79 of your Offences Against the Person Act.
All right, and just maybe in a few weeks, I see somebody asking for a step-by-step guide. We will ensure that we get that done. But thank you so much for joining us. Please come back next week. My name is Michael Jackson, Executive Director of JFJ.
And I'm Jade Williams, Policy and Advocacy Specialist.
All right, great. Have a good Monday.
Jamaicans, by justice, the people's champion. Justice, justice for all. Justice under the law. Justice, Jamaica demand. Right to life, right to liberty. Out of many we are one in a Jamaica. Make it a better place for the boys and girls. Created equal by the creator. For equal rights and opportunities. No to unlawful detention and police brutalization. Class, gender, race or religion. We not tolerate discrimination.
To join the fight against injustice, Contact us at 755-4524 or JamaicансForJustice.org.
The people's champion.
JP said Mary's banana chips. 20% more chips in the banana left on ground. The time by JP said Mary's banana chips is.
Experience Jamaica's Olympic triumphs in Jamaica Gold, a golden spotlight.
Brought to you by Horton's Pharmacy. Horton's RX Pack for better medication management.
After Donald Quarry's triumph in the men's 200 meters final at the 1976 Games, Jamaica's athletes would go another 20 years without winning Olympic gold. That cycle was ended in style by Dion Hemmings at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta.